Welcome to the introduction of Evaluetor, Sonority's contract management cloud service. In this introduction, we will show you the concepts that Evaluetor was built around and explain Sonority's contract management processes that get implemented alongside the Evaluetor software. Sonority has analyzed the various reasons why strategic partnerships between companies might deteriorate. Evaluetor was built around the different gaps that cause partnerships to get into trouble. There are different gaps: gaps between what is expected and what was agreed in the contract, or gaps between what was agreed in the contract and service level agreements and what is actually performed. Also, there are gaps between what is performed and what is known about what is performed. In other words, reporting and the control. Evaluetor is designed to close these gaps in order to assure that expectations, contract agreements, the actual performance, and the information that we have about it are all aligned, thus enabling a long, strategic, sustainable relationship between parties. Let's look at the functionality that Evaluetor provides for both service providers and client contract management organizations. The main modules of Evaluetor are contract management, where the contract documents, all the clauses, and all the commitments that are part of it are defined and managed. Next to that, we have the relationship management module. The relationship management module helps to manage all the non-tangible aspects of the relationships, like emotions or expectations not being met. The relationship development module helps to define new relationships from either a procurement or a sales perspective. So it is used by sales teams or procurement teams to build new relationships, manage sales opportunities, or manage bid processes. And finally, the management reporting module provides management analytics, helping management to analyze what is happening to their strategic relationships and showing them upfront warnings where management attention is due in order to assure these relationships stay sustainable. In the middle, we see improvement management. Improvement management is why we include all the other elements. If there are breaking points or gaps in other areas of the relationship, then improvement actions need to be defined, executed, and monitored to complete. Improvement management helps organizations in strategic partnerships to assure there is continuous improvement and a sustainable relationship over a long time. Before we access the actual Evaluetor system, we want to explain to you what the governance processes are that get implemented alongside Evaluetor. Let's start with contract management. Evaluetor allows you to collect all your contract commitments that have been defined as part of the contract and the contract clauses. During the lifetime of the contract, you can add additional commitments. For instance, commitments that say something about how we interpret aspects of the contract, or commitments that are not part of the contract, but that are required or necessary to keep the relationship in good health. Once we have defined a commitment, we can add them to a control cycle. When we activate a commitment, the control cycle starts. During the control cycle, frequent status updates are provided regarding the commitment on a frequency that we define ourselves. The control cycle ends when the commitment is fulfilled or a control cycle is no longer deemed necessary. Evaluetor passes status updates on to the right governance team that has been made responsible for the monitoring of the commitment. The governance team will use the status updates to decide on any improvement actions deemed necessary. Amber or red statuses in particular will typically indicate the need for improvement actions, which is done in the module Improvement Management. The second process we implement is called Relationship Management. Relationship management is centered around key performance indicators that were defined as essential for the relationship. In relationship management, key officers of both the provider and the client organization can score these KPIs and indicate what has to happen to improve on these KPIs. Based on the input from the provider key officers, the account manager, or the head of the delivery team, will then create an overall status of the account from the perspective of the provider. The client can do the same thing. The client officers can also score the KPIs and provide an overall status from the perspective of the client. They can do that at any time, but they can also do that as part of a yearly customer satisfaction survey. We prefer that the customer provides more frequent feedback, but we do that by making sure that the delivery team regularly scores the relationship, or the perception that they have how the relationship is perceived by the client on a regular basis, and thereby triggering the customer to react if he or she does not agree. And again, these KPI scores, and especially the reason for poor scores, can be evaluated in order to define and execute improvement management actions. The improvement management process works in a similar way to the contract management process. In Evaluetor, you can define all the teams and all the governance teams that are part of your relationship. For example, there might be a steering group, an operations board, or there might be an executive board. You can define as many governance teams as you like, and all of the commitments, the contract commitments that we have defined, all the KPI scores, or if you have service KPIs, all those can be assigned to governance teams to monitor and assure that all these things are handled in a proper way in order to maintain a sustainable relationship. Defined improvement plan actions can also be assigned to a governance team that is responsible for monitoring and managing the improvement action. In these governance teams, we use all of the input from all of the elements to either update or create new improvement plan actions so that the relationship stays healthy or, if possible, even improves. Finally, in Evaluetor, all the information comes together in several dashboards and management reports. For instance, we have the perception-based information, which is the relationship management part of the system. We can look at how the account manager scores the relationship, how the client scores the relationship, and how all of the key staff have scored the different KPIs that are important to the relationship. We can monitor the improvement plans and statuses of all the improvement plan actions. Evaluetor can also provide insight into the actual delivery performance, service level returns. And finally, we can look at the status of all the contract commitments, the contract performance, and the contract compliance that is being achieved. These are the basic governance processes that are being implemented when you implement Evaluetor.